Hello, we are Roni Chan.
Tracy Yang.
And Jaehyeon Park. We're Team 6 for HAIIvVE program and we'll be presenting about
Hello HAIIvVE interns. This is Dr. Ganapathi. I am informing you to send me $500 to this bank account to retain your intern position. Additionally, please send me your email address, password, social insurance number and do not notify others in the program. Thank you for your cooperation.
So, this scenario may seem completely absurd, but let me redirect you to the Canadian Security Intelligence Service's cyber threat statistics. In the year of 2022 alone, there were over 70,000 reports of fraud in Canada, with over $530 million stolen, which is expected to rise in the next 2 years. We, as HAIIvVE Team 6, declare that an implementation of a risk literacy framework in the current high school education system will significantly reduce this financial burden. Let's look at some data. In front of us is a graph of the frequency of Google searches for the term "my eyes hurt," where the horizontal axis represents the time throughout a single day, and the vertical axis represents the frequency of the searches. We see here that the frequency rests near 0 searches in the morning, but has a large spike followed by a slow decay throughout the remainder of the day. This is actually the plot for April 8th, the day of the recent solar eclipse, with the spike in frequency occurring exactly 20 minutes after the eclipse. While most people would think that not looking at the sun falls under common sense, this data is actually a very compelling visualization of the dangerously low risk literacy in today's population. Our goal is to construct an educational framework in risk literacy that will help high school students assess, identify, and estimate the impact of key risks, and provide them with a toolkit for risk mitigation and prevention. Throughout the course of our 7 weeks here, we have identified that the most important risk categories for high school students to be aware of are health, geopolitical, climate, social, and cybersecurity risk. Additionally, as cybersecurity risk has the largest immediate impact on high school students, we will place an emphasis on it and how it relates to the other risk subjects.
First, let's start off with one of the most notable risks for high school students. As the Department of Health and History of India indicated, low health literacy is considered to be a silent health epidemic. However, a study published in the American School Health Association has found that students with low health literacy are associated with lower general health, a higher chance of using drugs, and an overall greater involvement in high-risk behaviors. By extension, Canadians with the lowest health literacy skills were found to be more than 2.5 as likely to be receiving income support, even after removing factors such as education, gender, immigration status, etc. With these consequences in mind, we identified 3 key learning outcomes in our framework. These outcomes would help high schoolers to develop beneficial eating habits and make informed health judgments for the benefit of the students and society.
Geopolitical risk is defined to be any risk arising from interactions between countries, examples being trade relationships, security partnerships, and territorial disputes. This is not a topic that is currently taught in high schools. However, it is important as knowledge and awareness of geopolitical risks will lead to higher financial literacy and general analytical skills in high school students. Through our geopolitical risk literacy program, we aim to educate high schoolers on how to absorb information from real-world media sources with minimal bias, use this news to predict possible geopolitical risks, as well as quantify the degree of impact that each risk has on the current world. This will allow students to make educated financial and political decisions as they transition into adulthood.
Climate risk and physical impacts from climate change is often overlooked as people have difficulty grasping delayed consequences. The Canada Country Study states that Canadians spend about 1.7% of GDP on adaptation to climate change. Furthermore, the irregularity climate change brings on water supply causes both droughts and floods, which damage properties and risk lives. However, it is not an immediate effect that people connect to everyday actions. The United Nations has stated that education is key to addressing climate change. With the devastating and often irreversible effects of climate change, we identified the following learning outcomes. The learning outcomes ensure that students would both understand the scientific reasonings as well as the impacts of climate change. Subsequently, it allows students to mitigate the climate risks and to adopt the problem-solving mindset, encouraging effective impacts that combine individual changes.
In the digital age, high school students are increasingly exposed to the vast and complex web of social media. And the urgency for education on social risk is increasing. The Health Behavior in School-Aged Children study reported that 28% of Canadian adolescents had high psychological symptoms. This number shows the heavy impact of changes in society and constant online activity to the teenagers. It's a strong sign that we need to do more than what we're currently doing. Through targeted learning outcomes, we aim for students to comprehend the factors and impact of social risk, effectively communicate to manage these risks, and to develop practical strategies to mitigate these risks.
As our population transitions to using online technology in our everyday functions such as social media, online databases, and banking, the topic of cybersecurity illiteracy is a rising threat to everyone, especially high school students. Research by the Canadian government showed that there were 33 million social media users in Canada, with TikTok being the most popular among people under the age of 18. That is an unmoderated and insecure platform where online predators will attempt to steal their personal information, use phishing to steal their money, or even solicit sexual favors. The frequency of these incidents in Canada have hit an all-time high in 2023, so it is absolutely necessary that we begin to educate the population at a young age. Our educational framework aims to decrease the financial and social damages done to high schoolers by giving them a deep understanding of cybersecurity risk, as well as how to prevent themselves from being affected. After completing the curriculum, teenagers will be able to identify online financial scams, avoid malware, report online sexual exploitation, and properly react to data breaches.
As we approach the implementation phase of the framework, we developed an enterprise risk management module to assess the risk of the educational framework. This is an important step because it ensures student safety and performance, improves preparedness for emergencies, and optimizes the available resources. Our framework is organized into 5 supercategories, each having 2 to 3 subcategories. These categories are designed to cover a broad spectrum of risk in the educational framework, which includes financial, student outcome, reputational, platform, and governmental risk. These categories were specifically mentioned and raised as risk components in the educational framework by various educational boards like the Ontario government and the Ministry of Education of Canada. We also worked on developing a formula to quantify the risk. This formula was created to assess and quantify the potential risk associated with implementing this new educational framework. It serves as a critical tool for continuous improvement, allowing us to measure the effectiveness of our interventions and make data-driven decisions to enhance the curriculum and the ERM framework over time.
With the aim of our project being to develop a risk education framework to elevate risk literacy in high school students, we have delved into the knowledge of some key risks, with a focus on cybersecurity to design the high school education framework. We have also progressed on assessing the risks of implementing our framework. The arrow points to where we are currently. For the coming weeks, we plan to continue conducting research around methodology in assessing risk and developing the toolkit for risk mitigation and prevention to have a more holistic risk literacy framework.
To conclude our presentation, let me take you back to the Canadian cyber threat statistics. As a matter of fact, I can confidently claim that the probability that your own children who are active on social media right now will likely encounter someone trying to phish their money or steal their identity within the next month. According to a survey by TD Bank, adolescents and young adults are the most common targets of online fraud. In the past year, 41% of these users have reported that they were a target of a social media scam, with 1/3 of them suffering financial losses. Through our education framework, we as HAIIvVE Team 6 plan to ensure that your children do not become part of this statistic. If we invest the money into implementing a risk literacy curriculum for high schoolers right now, our country as a whole will save much more money and be able to protect our youth from becoming victims of cybercrime in the future. Thank you for listening to our presentation.